Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heartspace Atelier podcast. My name is Henry. I'm your host, and I'm very excited that you're here today. If you're new here, welcome. Hello. Heartspace Atelier is a podcast where we are devoted to finding our inner well of divine love and embracing it and alchemizing our lives to level up and become the best versions of ourselves. Today, we are finding ourselves next to a beautiful fire in front of the Christmas tree. Yes, as I'm filming this, it is currently December 25th. So I don't know when this will be out. I already recorded an episode today, actually, but I felt really called to record another one because something just occurred that I need to share with you guys and turn into an episode. And it was too much of a beautiful and intense situation to not share it. So I had this journal for the first half, I would say, of 2025. And I feel like a lot of you kind of felt the same about 2025. It has been a very intense year. It was a year of the snake, and there was a lot of stuff that happened in our personal lives, especially in our personal lives, because we were kind of being awakened into shedding the old version of ourselves so we can arise from the ashes and we can kind of come out of our old snake skin, I guess you could say, and embrace the new, which is the year of the horse, aka 2026. And as we lit up the first fire of the year, I think this was the first fire of the year because it is ridiculously cold here. It's like -5 degrees, which to me is cold. I had this idea because I had this old journal of mine of the first half of 2025. I had it here in my hometown. For some reason, I didn't bring it home the last time I left. As we were lighting the fire, I thought to myself, why don't I just burn the fuck out of these pages? Because I wrote so much heaviness in there. And I even put this journal into a space where I wouldn't really see it or notice it in my childhood bedroom. I mean, it really it shows that there was something very much wrong with it because I kept it in my hometown. I didn't bring it back to my place. And so I saw the fire and I was like, I need to burn this. I need to just burn it away. There was so much heaviness. There was so much trauma that came to the surface, and I'm so grateful for that journal because it carried me through all this heaviness. But it is also just something that I no longer want to keep for myself, you know? I don't want to keep it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to read back on it. Even though I kept all of my journals from the past years, I just didn't want to. I associated this journal with such a heavy time, and I didn't want to keep it. So I ripped out like 90% of the pages. I kept a few that I just wanted to remember, and I burned it. And I even took a little video. It looks very beautiful. And I don't know if you guys know the song Hello, My Old Lover by Dove Cameron. She has kind of like the same vibe as her cover art for that song. So I just thought I'd mention it as well. I love that song a lot. And as I was burning the pages, I felt this heaviness coming up again. And I was like, oh, what is going on here? And it became very clear to me that I need to yap about this. So here we are. And today we shall talk about the art of letting go, which is also the name of this episode. I don't know when this will be out. I might be pushing this episode a bit sooner than the ones I already recorded for season one. So I don't know. Maybe it still belongs in the year of 2025 because it is essentially all about letting go. So, something that has been present throughout all of my life is that I have been, ever since I was birthed, I have been confronted with many situations that were very plutonic. So, a lot of heavy endings and a lot of huge new beginnings and a lot of very intense ups and downs and a lot of Pluto energy, if you know what I mean. Like, just kind of like burning things to the ground and then arising from the ashes like a phoenix type of energy has been just with me and within me all of my life. I am somebody that is also very plutonic in nature. I can easily rebrand myself if I need to. I have done this a billion times. I feel like that is why I went through so many intense phases of my life. And maybe you can relate to this. For example, if you had like a very intense emo phase and then right after that you had like a soft girl phase and then all of a sudden you had like a boss bitch phase and just many different phases in your life that have kind of altered your being, altered your consciousness, and altered the entire way you are. You could be plutonic in nature, you know? And this is like some astrological things I'm mentioning here, just because I feel like this explains a lot. I've heard it before. Pluto, the planet of, endings, new beginnings, and like whoosh, and very intense transformation, destroying and building yourself up again, the goddess Kali, like we're talking about that energy, if you know what I mean. If you know, you know. And I've had this energy within me and around me. Well, first I had it around me and then I started having it within me because you become who you like what you are around of, you know? And I could blame it on my parents. I could blame it on my very fiery parents and being the child in the middle and having to be the middleman in the fire and when everything was collapsing and when everything was being burned to the ground, I could blame it on them. But what has led me through to a deeper truth is that everything that happened of that nature in my childhood, aka being the middleman at such a young age, without really having a choice, and standing in this fire of madness and anger and narcissism, and all of that horrible, intense shit that no child should ever really stand inside, you know? It has led me to a very huge and higher truth in my life that I feel like I wouldn't have been able to access if I hadn't gone through all of that shit. So I feel like it is also my purpose with this podcast. And I mean, I've been on the internet for like over 5 years at this point, sharing spiritual stuff, But my intention with everything I post is just like making you realize that your hardship will lead to the biggest blessings if you alchemize it correctly. There's no way around it. There truly is no way around it. It's gonna alchemize you. You will be alchemized. Your pain will be alchemized into light. If you let it, and if you're smart, and if you act accordingly. And now I need to close the windows because I'm getting cold. I don't think I would have ever walked down the path of spirituality and enlightenment if I had never went through what I went through, because in order for me to find this path of light, to walk on the golden path of light, I needed to face my shadows. I needed to know what darkness is. Because if I wouldn't know what darkness is, then I wouldn't be so fond of the light as I am now. And we always demonize bad situations, and this world is full of so much heaviness, and of course it is horrible. But we also must realize that we live in a world of contrast, and love cannot exist without hate, and hate cannot exist without love. And we are kind of in the middle trying to just alchemize it and adding it to the dance of life at all times, and that shit is hard. It's really hard. But it is doable. And I feel like, as I said, it's just my duty and yours too to alchemize your bullshit, because the most successful and wise people that have this deeper well of love is always what I mentioned in my podcast too, that have this deeper well of knowledge and wisdom and magic. They're always the ones that seem to have gone through the craziest shit. So if you see this and you know that you have went through some shit, know that it only happened because the universe needs you to alchemize it. The greater the pain, the greater the success. The greater the alchemizing. You are the alchemist, And I wish I could articulate these words even better, because it is not easy to vocally share how I feel deeply inside with you. But I hope I'm making sense. Also, if I keep looking at the side, is because when I'm really deeply like in my thoughts and I'm trying to like put my thoughts into words, it's a bit harder. But you know what I mean. I hope you do know what I mean. I feel like we are very easily being written off by society, that if something ever bad happened in your life, we're being thrown pity at us and sadness, and like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but then nobody actually cares, you know? Or somebody will see you as the smaller version because of what happened to you, or they write you off as like, oh, they must be like insane because of what they went through. Like, no, you know? Very rarely do we hear that this is actually such an incredibly divine thing, and it shows us that we have so much more to alchemize than the average person. The average person who has been very privileged in every single area of their life may not ever have the insight that you have, and insight and wisdom is your most valuable asset in this life. Everything can be taken away from you. Your physical items, your material items, your material wealth, your like everything. Nothing is certain. And I don't say this in a negative way. I'm just saying this, that we need to appreciate the things we have more. So, since everything can be taken away, what cannot be taken away? Your wisdom. Your wisdom and knowledge can never be taken away. Never. So it is very important that you alchemize the shit you went through. It is very important that you do the inner child healing, that you do the inner healing that your soul requires, because guess what? There's so much gold on the other side of it, you have no idea. You have no idea. And it's starting to become more apparent to the public. For example, we have people like the Wizard Liz. She's the self-help YouTuber who also had a ridiculously insane childhood, but she rose from the ashes and she alchemized it, and now she's a multimillionaire, self-made, talking about what happened and how she got herself back up. You can alchemize it all, but it all starts within you. It all starts with you saying, actually, I don't want to play the victim anymore. I want to play the winner. Because pity and victimhood will not save me. And it will take away all the power that I have. And it will give the human or people that abused me in the past, give them all the power. If I stay in victimhood, they will get all the power. That is not okay. But if I rise from the ashes, if I come even more successful than them, if I can be happy and healed, I'm doing this because, and if you're listening and not seeing the video, I'm, I'm quoting it because healing is, it is a lifelong process, Healing is a lifelong process, so I don't think we can ever be truly, quote unquote, fully healed. That doesn't mean that we cannot enjoy life and have the best time ever and be the most stable version of ourselves. There's always going to be something that we need to work through, whether big or small, or that we need to like alchemize, whether it's big or small. There's always going to be waves of beauty and rainbows and sun and magic, but then there's going to be a rainy season again. And then things will be rising up again to the stars, and then it's all gonna maybe fall apart again, but then you're gonna rise from the ashes like a phoenix and build it up again and build yourself up again, and it's a constant change. Change is the only constant. Is the only constants in this life. So if you're going through a rough time currently, whether you're being blinded by anxiety and fear, or whether you're being blinded by despair and you feel totally desperate because you don't know what's next and what you should do, you feel extremely paralyzed, know that everything works in changes. Everything changes all the time. For me, the most valuable thing to do when I feel stagnant and I feel like a change is upon me, but it's not happening yet and I feel paralyzed, I create art. I create the most simple or meaningless or meaningful or silly little things. I truly decided to reclaim myself as an artist. I'm nothing else but an artist. I create deeply from my heart, from my inner well of love, from my inner well of divinity. I speak. I do this podcast, I create music. I write stories. I'm just like I'm finishing a book that I started writing 4 years ago. And it's a beautiful love story. It may never see the light of day. Who knows? Maybe it will. Maybe it will, because I really, really love the story. I really do. And I had so much fun. I am having so much fun creating it. What else do I do? I mean, social media is an art form as well, Or just constantly showing up for yourself. It is an art form. Energy readings. I also do that from time to time. And I do plan on creating a space where I can work with people again for the next year, which I'm also very excited about. But whatever it is that you're doing, you're an artist, And life is your canvas, and it is up to you to decide how you fill that canvas. I think that is all I have to say for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if it hit your soul, if you felt connected to this or anything I said, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I always love hearing from you guys. And I think that you are amazing and incredibly powerful beyond your understanding, and it is time you start understanding that you are as powerful as everybody you look up to. We cannot continue underestimating ourselves. We need to rise and level up. That is for sure. Because we need to meet the stars again, and we can do that with our power. You know? Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this cozy setup as well. And I'll try to bring this out as fast as I can. As I said, maybe before 2026, but maybe a couple of days in already in 2026. We're gonna see, but I deeply enjoyed this, and yeah, just know that it's okay to rest. You'll be fine, and you will figure everything out that you need to figure out, for sure. Because you're the alchemist, and all it takes for you is to decide that you got this and that you can alchemize the shit out of every single situation, okay? Anyway, I love you so much, and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day or night or whenever you're listening to this. I love you. Keep glowing. Keep glowing. Bye bye.